Starting. First thing on the agenda, new faces. I'm pretty sure that I've seen every person here at a previous meeting. Um, great. So first up, let's go through the outstanding project level RFCs. Let me share my screen here. Let's hope I got the right one of my a million Chrome windows. Okay. Sorry, just finding my other Zoom. Okie dokie. Starting from the oldest, add semantic versioning RFC.
Yeah, I've taken care of your comments, so I don't think there are any outstanding requests.
Okay, great. I think this just needs people to re-review. So if you left comments here and you feel like they were addressed, feel free to go back through and add your approvals. Moving on to the next one, co-locate all Paketo RFCs.
I am still missing approvals from a supermajority of Node.js and web server maintainers. Those are the only two maintaining groups I still need a supermajority of agreement on. I will reach out to individuals in that in particular.
Do you need more than one from each?
So if it has to be what, greater than 60% for a supermajority, right? So if both of those only have two maintainers on them, unfortunately, I need both maintainers to sign off on it. I will reach out to someone individually.
All right. Sounds like we are really close to finishing that up. Forrest is going to take the action of shaming people.
Yeah.
Up next, Paketo Buildpack list builders.
Yeah, not sure what's outstanding. Not sure what's outstanding to do here. I added some like analysis of the maintenance overhead per Dan's suggestion. And I'm not sure if there's anything else actionable here that I needed to do. I think just re-review.
I did go through and add one comment just before this meeting, talking about the versions. I wonder if we don't need a version in sync with the other builders.
Oh yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, so I guess one reason to keep the versioning the same is then they can it makes it like a little bit less confusing that they would be checked into the same repo to get an understanding of like what version tags correspond to what config files, given as we've discussed before that GitHub right now doesn't have great support for like multiple version lines inside of one repo. But I don't feel that strongly about it. Like I'm sure we can make it work if we do feel that it's like a lot better to version it separately.
So projects do have some strategies for this where either tag sort of has a prefix for that denotes like your release tag as a prefix that denotes which of the things in that repo you're releasing. Like maybe we could look at some prior art there. I feel like because we put so much effort in the semantic versioning RFC to sort of describe the types of breaking changes, it feels a little bit unfortunate to me if we're publishing major versions of these build pack lists for builders that don't have breaking changes or anything like that.
Okay, that's fair. I'll investigate how we can implement that.
And maybe whatever comes out of that, we could use to try to, is it a strategy we could apply to other products? Maybe reduce some repo proliferation if it ends up looking okay to have releases of multiple products in the same repo. Just throwing that out there. Triage party.
Yeah, I got some feedback on this, I think, and most of the feedback from the last one of these meetings was, hey, maybe try some customization and show the team again. So I think there's no action here. It's back in my court to do some customization, and I think just before we create any kind of formal thing in the Paketo repos, I'll set that up on my own in my own fork of like a config. Yeah, just do it in my own in its own repo under my account. So we could potentially close this, or we could wait another couple weeks if you all are willing to just check in, hold me accountable the next couple weeks. Up to you.
Let's leave it open because then there'll be this ritual where we ask you about it and then we
Okay.
won't forget.
Sounds good. Yeah, I was out some last week, so I didn't get to it.
Yeah, no worries. RFC for bill of materials work. I saw this. This was on the agenda, right? Do you want to kick this to a full discussion later?
Yeah, it should be a relatively quick discussion, but it is more than just a check-in. So I'll wait until that we hit our agenda items.
Okie dokie. IBM Liberty build pack.
Yeah, so hi, I introduced myself a few weeks ago, and what we wanted to do is to contribute a build pack to Paketo. So I created an RFC. I had Daniel review it first, and he had some comments. But I guess I'm just looking for comments now.
When I was going through my reviews prior to this, I did not make it all the way up to the top, but I did glance at it and I think it looks like I'm excited about this. I think this will be a good thing to make available to users. It seems like we may need to talk about possible legal implications of the web sphere.
Yeah, the
Liberty.
commercial license. Yep.
My naive take is that as long as we're not packaging it as part of the tool, like, well, first of all, do you know if it needs authentication to install, or is it
does
freely
not.
available?
It's freely available.
Okay.
And we're kind of taking the position that you bring your own license sort of thing.
Yeah, as long as we're not distributing build packs with this vendor or anything like that, I think we might be in the clear, but it might be worth checking in with, you know, some of the CFF legal folks who help us out on stuff like this, just because I don't fully trust my own judgment call on some of the nuances.
Yep, understand.
It sounds like that's going well. Everyone feel free to take a look and add reviews to this. Okay. I think that takes us through project level RFCs, moving on to language specific RFCs. Looks like we have one, but it is a draft. Is this a draft that we'd like to talk about, or should we wait for this to be undrafted?
I think this is still a draft and we could move on. I think I had a note again to talk to Tim about this, but I didn't get to that. So we need to decide what to do with this.
Sounds good. Okay, moving on to the bill of materials RFC, a longer discussion.
Yeah. So
Do you want to share first?
oh yeah, absolutely. You'll have to
Yep.
quit sharing yours. I'll share mine up. Okay. So a couple of members on the VMware Paketo team, myself and Sophie, have begun a full-scale investigative kick into bill of materials work inside of Paketo Buildpacks. So while we were sort of poking around, we figured that we should go through some open source formality is not the right word, but do through some open source documenting of our design intention, and I think some Paketo intention as well. So we decided to write up an RFC discussing how we wanted to move. Right now is bill of materials is kind of a de facto requirement-ish thing in Paketo, but in reality, there's no actual requirement. It's completely optional. What we wanted to do with at least one of these RFCs to come up here was to state, actually, the intention of the project is not only are these things not optional, but they are first-class citizens when it comes to designing and supporting Buildpacks. We feel that they're very important and they provide a lot of user value. So that was the intention of this RFC right now. Emily, I did see that you added a couple of comments and I was able to skim them briefly and not really respond. But generally speaking, the hope and the hope for this RFC was to lay out that bill of materials is a first-class citizen, and it is no longer a can but a should when we're trying to do when we're talking about designing and operating of Buildpacks in Paketo.
I love this, and I think it'd be a big improvement to the Paketo user experience to be able to have all this information available to end users. I do think it'd be really valuable to sort of add more details to this particular RFC, describing what fields we would like to include in each entry and what keys we want to use for them. Because then I think this RFC, isn't just a rallying point for every set of language maintainers should be looking into this, but it provides something that we can reference in order to make sure they all come out looking consistent.
So I agree that I would love to have a set of highly defined fields at some point. I'm a little concerned to say that we could do it right now and in this RFC, unless it's okay for this to be a more long-running RFC. I think that currently, as part of our work investigating bill of materials, is actually trying to come up with fields and the kind of information that we would be supplying as part of our bill of materials work. And then another aspect of that is I know that there have been discussions. I think there's an open discussion thread right now in the CNB community repo around potentially changing the format of bill of materials to not be whatever a build pack happens to define, but also giving it a defined bill of materials output, something along the lines of SPDX, Cyclone DX, something in that realm. So I'm a little hesitant to have us right now. I think part of our work would be to go in and try and help and weigh in and push weigh in and push the importance of standardizing the bill of materials in CNB. I understand that that's also a process that could be slow in terms of the uptake, in terms of how quickly that kind of feature would be released. So I guess it would come down to how would it be okay for us to have a, hey, maintainers, this is something you should look at, and then later down the road have another RFC this is in fact, like, in some ways, like the specification for what bill of materials in Paketo needs to look like. So that's just a couple of things I'm just going to throw at you and let you try and answer as many as you remember.
I wonder if there's some in between ground. Like, I think there are some types of information like licenses, versions, hashes that we're pretty sure that we would end up including no matter what direction the CNB stuff took. And I do think that if we want to provide value to users without waiting for CNB, it would be nice if Paketo users, if there's something we could link them to that, shows them which keys to use to get this information and do it in a predictable way. So we're not using, digest in one place and SHA-256 in another to represent the same thing. So I don't think it has to be comprehensive or like everything we'd ever want to do, but maybe just, a straw dog with some of the basic stuff that we'd like to do as a first pass, and then it can evolve over time.
Okay, I think that's fair. So like you would be fine with sort of a generic subset of what will probably be the ultimate list, and then we can, and then any further. So I know something that we are investigating is like CPE numbers and or sorry, just CPEs, excuse me. And obviously we're looking to enhance some more of our stuff with license information, and then we have things like our source SHAs and our source URIs as well. Maybe leave some of those out for now, and then come in later and say, not only should we do this, but we should also have this. I feel like if we were to do that in 2 separate stages, I would really actually like to come up with a Paketo bill of materials spec, because I feel like it would be really painful to have one subset proposed in one RFC, and then you have to go to the enhancement RFC to read all the new fields, and then let's say another thing comes out, you have to go to enhancement RFC 2. So maybe coming up with some place where we could have a defined bill of materials spec would be good for us to have. And I think that there's been some discussion about even just Paketo spec in general. I don't know that we have enough sort of defined specification about how we do build pack things yet to have a full outright spec, but some place where we could grow into that and start putting things that we feel are important might be a good thing to do.
And we put the spec in the RFC to start. Like, I mean, sorry, it's a little flippant, but like, when we get started with that.
I'm more than well. I mean, obviously, we have to define the schema, right? Like the default schema inside this RFC. But I would like that to be extracted to some third-party thing.
I totally agree with that goal. I wonder if like a spec is maybe overkill. Like, do we just need a page in our documentation that can be the source of truth, and then we combine the deltas from all the different RFCs to keep the documentation up to date?
I'm throwing around the word spec like I actually need it to be a specification. I really just want it to be a schema list, or some platitudes and whatever else, and we can call that whatever we want to call it. But yeah, someplace to put that. But it sounds like for now, what we should do is we should write up a schema and then chuck it in here, and then maybe as part of this we talk about someplace to put it, or maybe we come up with another RFC that's like, hey, we need someplace to co-locate all of these engineering decisions that we've made. Like, I'm not, like something a little bit more official than a style guide, but a little bit less official than a spec, I guess.
Yeah. I
mean, we're writing RFCs. We might as well write specs, is my feeling. Anyway,
I think that can be a different discussion. I might
Sure.
open up a discussion on the community discussion board and throw it in here and have us, battle it out some week. But I don't know that now is the right time for that.
My aversion to the word spec is like, I think, a pedantic one. It's like a spec is something that if you implement it, you could say it is an X. Like if someone meets our spec, is their build pack a Paketo build pack? No, Paketo build packs are the ones that are in the project, right?
Well, we could say that you're qualify as a Paketo build pack, right? Like then you could use that as a,
or you're using the
benchmark.
Paketo bomb format, and then hopefully that goes away and it just becomes the C&B bomb format.
Sure, absolutely.
I think as we, document some of these keys, we don't need to be too concerned about only, like, we can be a little loose on the requirements here. We can say, like, if you have this type of information, here's the key you should use, without saying that every single build pack has to be able to provide all this information for everything right out of the gate, but at least so that people know what key to use if they would like to provide it.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of keys that obviously we're gonna say that we require, like obviously the URI and then the hash of the URI, I think are two things that we're going to require out of the gate. But yeah, I think we'll be generous with the optional tag in our schema.
Yeah.
And then that'll be another great bike shedding session where we get to decide whether or not they should be optional or not.
Eventually we want all the data for everything, right? But it might take us some time to get there. So I wouldn't want the fact that we're not ready to implement it now to stop us from describing how we would like it to look someday.
It sounds good. Okay, that's good feedback, Ben. Sophie and I can take that and run with it, I think. Other than that, just looking for comments like everyone else on their RSCs. So, yeah.
I believe that's the end of our agenda. Does anyone else, having felt inspired by that discussion, have something that they want to talk about?
I do like the idea of a Paketo spec. Sorry, just because what I've seen a couple of different times now is people write Paketo-ish things in community, and then we rewrite them to get them into, like, to elevate them, basically rewrite them entirely. So it would be cool to be a little more clear what we are looking for. Anyway, that's all I want to say about that.
Is that mostly about coding style or is it about functionality?
I think it's the idea that we do things as well. I think the couple ones I've seen is like they were more monolithic versus we like to do composable stuff and break them up a bunch, and in terms of lots of different build packs, composing, that kind of stuff, and maybe a bit of a bit of style as well. But
yeah, I'll open up a discussion hopefully later today around should we have a Paketo spec or should we have Paketo specifications? Like maybe we have one for, I know another one that I think I would love to formalize is something like the build plan. I'd love to have a Paketo build plan spec because I feel like that would be super powerful with our ability to do things like set build and launch flags during the build plan and control that kind of thing for the layer setting. I think that would be really interesting to define. And we also have, a build pack that ostensibly uses the build plan. So maybe having a specification for the kind of things that you can write into it might be helpful.
Might be worth going ahead and documenting every single key we use. If we talk about the build plan as being a way for things to be interoperable, right?
Well, I ultimately don't think, like, I think that there's a couple of keys that we would really like to sort of use all over the place. And there's stuff that, like, version, I don't think that there's very few build plans that have, build specific things that have, don't have version, at least in a lot of sort of the non-Java build packs. I can't speak entirely to, sorry.
I guess I wasn't thinking, I said key. I think I really meant like name, like the names of different entries.
So like cataloging, like if I wanted node engine, I would ask for node in the build plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like
yeah.
that could just be for different build packs, but we have some conventions across build packs. So maybe it's for language families. Like maybe Kevin's life would have been easier thinking about how to implement the Liberty build pack if we had, documented the keys that it uses to coordinate with the JVM provider and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I'll open up as a discussion thread. I really don't want to sort of sit here and speculate about things that we possibly could do in a sort of ad hoc talking about it way.
Well, on that note, I think we're done. So I'll give you all some time back. Have a lovely day.